What's up, and welcome to another episode of the Scott and Ian Show on the SBL Podcast. Today, Scott and I are talking about a subject that we are very passionate about. I remember saying at some point, into my sunset years, I think I'm really going to focus on education. What a thing to say. But I remember saying that, and it sort of like surprised me. I'm like, sunset years? Probably heard someone say it and just like parroted it back. But I love education. For me, seeing that light bulb go off for somebody, it's a big deal. And obviously it is to Scott too. So this episode is all about teaching. We're going to talk about how to be a better teacher. We're also going to talk about how to get more students, right? Even if you want people to come into your space, get more students one-on-one, or even go past that and think about your business, your teaching business as a business, because it is. I encourage you to think about it that way and think about growing it in a way like Scott did with an online business that can actually scale. I used to not know what that word meant. It just meant you can be in more than one place at the same time. I sometimes say like, God, I wish I had a cloning device. Well, if you scale an online business, you don't need one because people can study with you at the same time asynchronously all over the world. So this pertains to you if you want to get better at teaching, if you want to make more money teaching, if you want to get more students, if you want to scale a business. We talk all about it, and we are passionate educators. And hey, segue to SBL. You know that this is sponsored by SBL. There's never a sponsor because the sponsor is always SBL. We've got Nick Campbell coming up on our Mentors live stream on Monday, April 3rd. Do you know that we do that? We have this thing called the Mentors program at SBL. Every Monday, there's someone live streaming on a different topic. Nick Campbell, you might know him from playing with Scary Pockets or making his own music. He has courses on SBL as well. He is a monster player and a fun dude, really cool guy. So check that out. That is Monday, April 3rd. There's all kinds of stuff always going on at SBL. If you haven't taken the free 14-day trial and you want to see that Nick Campbell stream, or you want to check out what we've got going like Player's Path, the Learning Pathways, the huge artist course library, do it. What are you waiting for? Grab it. All right, here we go. Let's get to this episode.
Before we get into talking about teaching, can you update everybody on the canine situation you've got going on in your house?
You guys, yeah, I love it. Scott uses the word carnage. he says, Scott gets on and says, is it just carnage? It's like, God, that's like the word carnage is so visceral, right? And like, I love how you guys use it. Yeah, dude,
I just think of a car just ripped a bit.
yeah. I feel like every time I hear, like, it's such a UK thing too. Like, carnage just means, yeah. I mean, I feel like you guys use it very offhand, like just to mean like, our things. We would maybe use hectic or like crazy or I don't know, but carnage, dude, it's such an intense word. Yeah, I like you going. Can you give me an American carnage?
Oh, wait a minute. Carnage.
Yeah.
Carnage.
Dude, yeah, that's right? Pretty good.
Carnage.
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody the other day. Carnage. Yeah. I was talking to, you really have to lean into the
yeah.
I was talking to somebody the other day and they're going on like a weekend away and with their friends, and they were like, dude, it's going to be carnage.
So that means like what? Party, like in that instance, it's going to mean like they're just going to get hammered, drunk, and like
there's going to be vomit.
Yeah. Yes.
Somebody's going to lose like a limb or whatever. I don't know.
It's amazing. Yeah. Classic hangover style. Dudes going out and just messing it up. I mean, yeah,
absolutely.
I will say it is a little like that right now. It is carnage in the Allison household.
What's her name?
Her name is Ginger. We have a brand new golden doodle puppy. She's the most adorable thing in the world. Put her up on my Instagram a little bit, but she's brand new. She's only 2 months old at this point. I mean, you know, very recently, like weaned off of her mother's milk. So we got pick of the litter. We signed, you know, there's a great place in Plymouth, which is just close to where we live. And we went out and picked out this beautiful, curly golden doodle puppy that is going to be 40 to 60 pounds. But Scott, we're trying to kennel train her. And
is it not going good?
Oh, dude, you put her, she just wants to be around her people, dude. Just wants to be around her people. And you put her in that kennel at night and she makes sounds like a tortured monkey. Like you're pulling, like you're physically harming a monkey. That's how, and it is distressing. You know what I mean?
Awful?
Yes. But she's been in her kennel now 4 nights in a row. I think it's starting to get better. She figured out how to escape. All that stuff that people say is true.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, this is batting down the hatches or batting down. She would get out. We're like, how on earth? We figured it out, got that all like taped and cardboarded up. I mean, dude, Scott, we have base boxes everywhere in the house as puppy gates.
Oh, amazing. I've got plenty of them. I'm going to be all over that. And it's top of mind, as I was saying earlier, it's top of mind for me because we've obviously, George sailed on over to the other side last year. Yes. So George is not, what I was going to say, he's not part of my family. He's not a human part of my family. He was a canine part of the family.
He was so part of the family, yeah.
He was awesome. He sailed to the other side last year. So we're looking at getting a puppy. And Lisa is anti-pet, let's put it that way. She is like, if anybody's had a parent out there, do you know when like I'm hanging with friends and I mention pets, like there's always a few friends that are just like, yeah, we didn't have any pets,
right?
Like I think like Lisa's a little bit indexing towards that, and which is strange because we've had dogs for ages, but I think maybe she's just overdosed. She's like had too many dogs, and like George passed away, me and the kids were like, let's go, let's get another one. And she was like, no.
Yeah.
And like Winter's like, oh, well, how about a hamster? How about a guinea pig? And Story's like, how about a snake? I wanna, what's it called? A ball python he wants. And like Lisa's like, no, and no, yeah, and that thing? No. Right. No pets. So, and it's making me kind of like lean into it. I'm trying to kind of sort of like, because she's pulling so hard in one direction, I'm like, come on, let's get a dog. So anyway, all I said, we are going to get a dog, but the thing that's up in the air at the minute is when. Are we going to get it like in the next sort of like, couple of months, or are we going to leave it to the end of the year, or like, back end of summer or whatever? And I think looking at you, reading between the lines, threading the needle, joining the dots. I think I'm going to leave it to the back end of summer.
That's what I wanted to do. But
oh, did you?
Oh, listen, man, Emily, Allison, I am more like Lisa. I think that sometimes we talk about this, and I really identify with Lisa. Man, I was like, oh, excellent. Let's take a break, maybe for a year, maybe 2. Like I grew up in a non-pet family where my mom was like, no way. It was as if I was asking to go to Saturn. Like, hey, could we get a turtle? And she would look at me with this face like, have you lost your mind? Yeah. So, that's how I grew up. And then I came into the relationship. Emily had a dog. So she was a dog person. She's a big, big dog person. And not so much a pet person, but a dog person, right? She doesn't want, she doesn't want hamsters and turtles and lizards and snakes, but she wants a dog. And here's at least what worked on me. So I'm telling you, if you want to take this and see if this works for Lisa, Emily just started to find them on the internet. And then she was showing me, in bed all the time, she's showing me, pictures of amazing dogs in these kennels that are close by.
I've tried.
You've tried it?
She's harder than you, dude.
She's
Lisa's
unfazed.
Just like a stone. She's like a freaking piece of granite, like impenetrable. I could have a diamond drill, and I would not be getting into that. She's sort of like, her heart is just sort of like,
oh my god,
it's locked away,
dude. What a picture to paint. Wow. Yeah, well, I like to think of myself that way, Scott. I feel like, that's what I want to be, dude. Lock it up tight. But, dude, I would see those puppies and she'd be like, oh. And Emily has a way of talking to me where I'm just like, oh, okay. God.
Yeah, that's what, Lisa just doesn't let me in, man. I'm sort of like, I'm showing her all the pictures, and the more pictures I show her, the further away that date gets.
She tightens it down.
It's going to be all good, though. It's going to be all good.
Yeah.
Hey, while you mentioned it, you went to Plymouth, right? Was it Plymouth you went to?
Yeah. Sorry, we froze for a moment there.
Oh,
but yes.
Is that what Brian Wilson was singing about in one of his songs? Did he?
The
Royal Plymouth, right?
The like third tier suburb of Minneapolis. I doubt it.
I don't know, man. It's called Plymouth Rock.
Plymouth Rock is like a
Plymouth Rock rollover. Oh, where's Plymouth Rock?
Plymouth Rock. Oh God, this is so awful because Plymouth Rock is, I feel like I'm going to screw this up, but I think it's like, it's like the rock that the people, when they first came over, the boats landed at the rock, like the first Americans or whatever.
Oh,
but that's not, I am
Plymouth.
Ashamed that I even said that. But yes, Plymouth Rock is the historical U.S. East Coast monuments. Oh,
yes. Just look at it now. Check it out.
I feel ashamed.
It was on that Brian Wilson record called Smile, which is amazing, actually. I went to see Brian Wilson live, and the band were outlandish.
Oh,
it was awesome. So the band, first of all, there was about it wasn't a band, it was a herd.
Yes, tons of people.
Tons.
Yes.
A herd. A gaggle.
A buttload.
A buttload. There's a buttload of band members, right? So I think there was about 15 of them.
Yeah.
And every single member of the band sang.
Oh,
so
crazy.
They all played
huge
great,
vocals.
obviously. They all sang great. And they all seemed to play about 4 or 5 instruments. It was wild. It was amazing, actually. And just if anybody is wondering, Plymouth Rock is the traditional site of the disembarkation of the Mayflower Pilgrims.
There we go.
Founded the Plymouth colony in December 1620.
Yeah, see, the first Americans. I was actually really happy that you moved on to Brian Wilson and Smile to take the focus away from my dubious knowledge, dude. Of my dubious American history knowledge. All I was doing in school.
We've got a place over here called Plymouth. What were you doing in school? Yeah.
Oh, dude, I was just drawing pedal board layouts on the margins of my notes.
You're my hero.
When they were talking about Plymouth Rock, I was like, yeah, whatever. Like, the only rock I'm interested in is rock and roll.
Should we do it, dude? Should we get into it?
Please.
We're getting into, I'm pulling up my notes. If people can hear tapping in the background, I've got some notes.
I mean, we're talking about teaching, right? We're talking about getting into being a teacher. We're talking about maybe making a little more money. Don't we all want to make a little more money? What was that? Was it Sally Struthers? Did you guys have her? She'd say, what'd she say? I want to make a little more money. We all do. Do you want to make a little more money? We all do. Did you have that?
Sally? No.
Dude, whatever. Just some salesman, in the 80s. But I just remember that. You want to make a little more money? We all do. And that's the question I'm posing. Money. Yeah, we all do, right? We all want to make a little more money. Yeah.
And the reason we thought it would be an interesting topic for the podcast is because there are probably loads of bass teachers that are listening to this or people thinking about, their bass players at a level where they could absolutely be a teacher. Maybe they teach a few friends or a few kids of friends, all of that thing. And I think it's a really awesome thing to get into, actually. I think it's really interesting. I think that our audience will really dig it as well. And ultimately, just to be transparent, we're going to be talking about stuff like, should you even become a teacher? Do you need qualifications? How do you get students?
Yes.
And we will be talking about, once you've got those students, how do you actually make more money being a bass teacher? The reason, in all transparency, we called this episode How to Make More Money as a Bass Teacher is because we just thought that would intrigue people the most. Because,
don't tell them our secrets, dude. They're going to click away. Don't tell them the secrets, dude.
It's coming. We'll talk about money as well.
I wish that I would have had this episode in my life when I was a bass teacher, Scott, because I started teaching bass too young. I was like good, flashy player. And in a small town, good flashy players get noticed. And then, this place was like, oh, will you teach? I was 17 when I first started to teach at a music store, and it was too soon. And I was just teaching people how to tap. I was like, this sounds sick, and slap. So I was like, I had no idea, dude. I had no idea what I was doing. So I'm so excited to hear you talk about qualifications, and because I had none when I started.
Well, I started teaching really early.
Did you? Like, how old were you?
Yeah. 15 or 16.
What? Dude, you got the one up on me. 15 or 16?
15
teaching guitar?
Or 16. Teaching guitar, yeah.
Oh,
teaching
wow.
guitar. So
teaching old guys? Teaching young people?
Teaching all.
Wow.
So I was doing like classical guitar at the time. So I started playing guitar when I was on 13.
Yeah.
And I started out on classical guitar. Like, played electric guitar not so long after that, but I was kind of playing a lot of classical guitar. My teacher at the time, she had these students that needed help, especially sort of like over the weekend. She'd run sort of like weekend workshops and stuff like that. And I just began teaching in those. So I'd help her out teaching the young students. And then I started kind of like around 16 years old, working in a music shop, and and I was teaching guitar in the music shop, and just sort of like bits and bobs, really. It wasn't sort of like anything that I thought really seriously about like people do now. Like, I think it's actually legitimately, in fact I know it is, like a lot of my friends, it is their gig. That is what they do.
Right, absolutely.
There is there's a solid career that you can build solely based off teaching an instrument, whether it be guitar or piano, or in obviously in our terms, in our case, bass. Right, you can be a full-time instrument teacher. You don't need to do it in a school.
Right,
you can do it. There's a bunch of different options. You can teach out of music stores. You can, and this is in the UK. It'd be interesting to know how it is over there. But over here, you can do it out of stores. You can do it where you actually have them come into your house.
Yep.
You can have it where you're traveling to people's houses.
Yes.
There's something over here called peripatetic teaching, where you travel to a school. You're not like a full-time teacher in a school. You actually will be you'll be the base teacher for a school. So you'll go to the school, you maybe have sort of like 8 to 10 students, and then you will work with multiple schools to do that. So I've got friends that have like a lot of students, like a lot.
Wow.
Like, like
peripatetic?
40, 50,
what's it called?
Peripatetic. Who knows what the frickin' heck that means? Peripatetic.
Wow. I've never heard that word before in my life.
Probably means nothing. Some academic was sitting there trying to sort of like have one up on his layman everywhere. And he was like, I'm going to come up with a word that means nothing. Peripatetic.
I wonder if that's similar. We call it, I think over here, when I taught at this college in Minneapolis for 10 years as the only bass teacher there, but I wasn't staff, right? They hired me as like part-time, but they called it adjunct faculty. So I was an adjunct, Still they called me Professor Allison, though, which was pretty sick.
Oh, dude. Did you get a badge that said Professor Allison?
Yeah, I think I had a little something outside the room, I
would have bought one just to wear. I mean, I would have worn it around the house, and then when I got to the school, I would have taken it off because I would have been embarrassed. But around the house, I'd have worn it.
Mine was like a little plaque outside the door, so I would have had to like slid it out of the thing and then pinned it like big.
Just pin it on. Yeah.
Dude. I should have done that. But yeah.
So when you started, you were teaching at 17 out of a music store, and how did it progress from then? How did you end up teaching in the college and and all of that good stuff?
I ended up, so I loved the light bulb moment. I really did get excited about education, even when I didn't know how to do it. I was still excited about it. Like, I would see the light bulb go off. I would unlock something for someone. I found that I could, even with those weird techniques, I didn't know anything about theory when I was 17, but I started to learn. And as I learned about it, I was excited to talk about it. So I think that was the thing for me of like, wow, I got really into learning about the modes really early, for instance. And I was like, oh, I get it. And then I was excited to explain it because I saw how confusing it was for people. Yes. So for me, it was, going through high school and then in college. And in college, I did a little bit of, I studied, but then I did a little bit of teaching too, like out of my dorm room, in college. And then out of college, I started to teach students in my apartment. Dude, I don't know. There was a low, Scott. There was a low point in that world before I got to the college and started to teach, right? There was this low point where like I had a student and his mom would always come and stay because this was like a young student, totally fine. But I'll never forget this mother saying, you know, because the kid was like, oh, you know, I want to do what you do, you know? And I was like, oh yeah, man, being a bass player is amazing. And the mom sort of chimes in from the corner of the room and is like, you might just want to like take a look around though, and just see like, this is where Ian lives. Like,
oh
like
my
a shitty
God.
apartment, you know? And she's like, and like, you know, I mean, and I'm not sure how much money he makes, almost as if like I weren't there. I was just like sitting there. And then it was sort of this realization of like, oh, yeah, like I need to step up my game. And I will say, man, when I got that teaching gig at the college, I was 26. I didn't have any formal education, but I had a lot of road experience, dude. I was, you know, traveling a ton, playing with a bunch of different folks. And at that time, when I got that gig, I thought I'd won the lottery. I'll never forget being on an airplane going somewhere. And there was a woman sitting next to me and we were chatting and she's like, oh, what do you do? And I was like, I am going to blow her mind. Like, I'm going to tell her what I do for a living and she's going to be impressed. As if I were about to tell her that I were Batman. Like, I was like, dude, like I wound it up, leaned in a little close, and I was like, I'm a bass teacher. And she was like, oh. Like, oh, and just didn't talk to me for the rest of the flight, dude. And it was like,
you should have you did a bad sales job, man. That's bad marketing. You should have been like, I'm a musical instrument professor.
Oh yeah, I'm a professor. I should have said that.
Professor.
Yeah, I'm a professor, Allison.
Dude.
Thanks. Yeah, but I was so pumped that I was a bass teacher. I thought it was nothing cooler.
You should have just flashed in your badge, man. Why didn't you have the badge on? That should have been the answer. You just pointed the badge and you're like, can you not read?
Can you not read what it says on the badge? Oh, dude.
But I can remember the same. When I got my first teaching gig at a university. I was so freaking stoked.
Yes.
I was so stoked. And it was amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. And what was it like for you? What was your trajectory?
It was amazing.
Yeah.
What the heck happened? Well, I always taught. Like ever since I was 15, 16, I always taught. It was always sort of like something that I did. And hey, just to throw it out there as well, you know, many people listening to this podcast might know this already, but if you don't, most musicians, semi-pro and especially pro, most of them teach.
Yeah,
most of them teach. Like at whatever level they are, everybody's teaching. So that is why this episode is really, really, it could be really important because everybody does it from the bottom right to the top. Like think about, you know, who the best bass players, you know, the most known bass players, Victor Wooten, John Patitucci, like all of those like aliens, right? They all teach. Gary Willis teaches. Like they all teach. Everybody teaches. So
and there's a thing in jazz,
really interesting topic,
right? There's this idea in jazz, right, of like you must pass this along, right? And it's almost like I've heard people describe it as sort of like a civic duty. It's not an option to teach; you must. And I love that idea. I love that idea, and I just don't think like in rock and roll and pop music, people feel like they have the knowledge or they feel like they're steeped enough in the theory. Like if you play jazz at a high level, you know something about music theory typically. Right. And so you're able to sort of, you know, stand on this, the shoulders of academia because, you know, jazz music is taught in the schools now and say like, okay, I get it. I can see. But I think sometimes for people that don't play jazz, they don't think they're a good teacher or they don't want to teach or they don't feel like they have the responsibility. But I feel that way. I mean, even though I wouldn't describe myself as a jazz musician per se, I really have this feeling of I think that I need to pass along to people who are interested and want to know about it. I want to answer questions. I want to teach. I want to show people. I want to demonstrate. I want to be clear. I'm very passionate about education. And I think it's part of what we should be doing as musicians and as artists?
On my notes here, like one of the first questions is, should everyone teach?
Dude.
All caps. Like, I think everybody should teach. Like, whether, you should always be passing that information along.
Yes.
And also, it really helps you fully understand what you're doing as well.
Yes.
It really helps you think about what you're doing, and having to pass that information on is actually sometimes a real challenge. Like at the minute, he is like obsessed with Rubik's Cubes, right?
Yeah.
He's freaking obsessed.
I know.
And he's a beast at it, right?
Know,
he's a beast, yeah. And he's been teaching winter, and I've been talking to him about like
how,
first of all, why he should teach her, and he's into that, but how he should approach it, because it's really easy for him to just too much information all at once, all of that. So teaching him about the psychology side of teaching, and giving people small bite-sized chunks, and giving them it in small bits, and giving them the time to actually absorb that information, stuff like that. And he's actually really digging it.
Oh,
and
that's so cool.
Yeah, he's really, really digging it. And also, he's digging kind of learning piano himself as well. And that's sort of like the other side of it, is me learning more about how to teach kids. I think that, for instance, not to go off on a tangent, but we can pull it back in a minute, but I am really experienced with teaching, but not so much with kids, with small kids.
Right.
My kids are 7 and 10, or about to be 8 and 10, and it can be really challenging. And looking at their piano teacher, I was learning. I was being schooled. I was like, holy shit, she is awesome. So I've been like listening to what she's been doing and how she's been approaching it. And they come back from her and they're super enthused. So I've been listening a lot, and it's really simple stuff, that you wouldn't necessarily think of, especially if you're just sort of like, well, whatever, dude, I'll just like teach you this lick and, whatever. It's really important that, kids and adults have a really clear trajectory, a pathway. They understand that they're working towards something, right? So that's what she's done. She's laid it out for them. It's really important that she has she's rewarding their practice.
Yes.
They colour in a little chart every time they do a bit of practice, and then when they hit a certain number, they get a reward. Like, there's all of these things built into it, and she's just really, really great at that. So I've been like watching her and trying to figure out how I can use those types of approaches, because as I've said earlier before we hit record, I've got them practicing 6 days a week.
That's amazing.
And I was pretty terrible when we started, but now it's like, it's actually for me, like, they're finding it better, but I'm finding it better because I'm just sort of like, I've got like a way better gauge of stuff like, and it sounds stupid to say it, but stuff like, hey, one's 7, one's 10. These are going to process completely different speeds.
So true.
They're going to be able to work on these things within different depths. Some will be able to, Story will be able to sit at that piano for 30 minutes, 45 minutes. Winter's going to be totally baked after like 15 minutes
Yes.
or whatever, 20 minutes. She wants to go play with something, and just catering my teaching style every day for them has been really important. So I am into teaching. I think it's freaking awesome, and I think it's a really cool way to actually level up your own playing.
Absolutely.
Because it makes you self-reflect on what you have to do. How do you have to package up that information and then pass it on to that student that you're working with?
Let me ask you this. When you look back on your trajectory of teaching and what it taught you, I want to know, what mistake, was there ever a time where you were like, oh, I can't believe I used to do that first, or I can't believe I used to use this and it didn't work, and you didn't know why it was working, and then you figured it out? Do you have like something that comes to mind?
Yes, one big fat one. Yeah,
I do too.
Trying to freaking wing it. Trying to freaking win it. Wing
So
what do you want to learn today? What a complete idiot.
Yes,
Come on, what a dick.
What are you doing? What did we do last week?
All of that, should just not having a plan, not having a map for them, not having a curriculum, just winging it. And honestly, because I saw it when I was younger as a thing to tide me by. It wasn't ever serious.
Yeah, whatever. A little teaching on the side kind of a thing.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And then when I watch Great teachers teach, especially when they're working with students over a longer period of time and doing it in that one-to-one scenario. It is so important that you have a plan, that you can show the student a trajectory to follow. Hey, we're going to do this, and then you're going to do that. And then after this, we're going to do this. Similar, there's a different systems you can use, but it's really important to map out the yellow brick road for the student, right?
Yeah,
they want to go to us. They want to follow the yellow brick road. You need to give them a map and you need to show them the yellow brick road. And then you're going to take them to us rather than you both sat in a freaking field. There's no road and you're both discussing what you did last. What do you want to do now? What did we do last week?
This is so convicting. Because I had that too, even at the college level. And I had some incredible students, still in relationship with a lot of them. Some of them listen to this podcast. Oh God, but there definitely were some weeks as Professor Allison, where I was like, yeah, so, what did we do last week? Remind me. I think for me, the biggest though mistake that I made was I didn't contextualize. Like, I got so excited about theory and I got so excited about fingerings and like all this stuff that I was just like, oh, that's what I need to teach, because everybody's going to go learn, songs and stuff. I just didn't apply any of it. So I remember when I would start someone out brand new on the bass, or even this was pre my college teaching days, but someone would come to my apartment and they'd be brand new. And I'm like, first thing we're going to do is the 7 forms of the major scale. First finger, second finger, fourth finger, 1 string, 2 string, open position, and 2 octaves, baby. There's 7 ways to do it. I figured it out. I'm a great teacher, dude. I'm a great teacher. I figured it out. That's what we're doing. And no one would ever get through it. And I set it up as a blockade. It would be like, get through this, and then we'll get to the other stuff, because you got to know this. And then they just couldn't do it. And I'd be like, oh, how's the 7 forms going? And then I was like, oh, let's keep working on it. You got to get through it. Oh, my God, dude. I mean, it was awful. And then I just saw people like bailing. And I'm like, why are they bailing? And then I ended up working with somebody.
Contextualized it.
There was no context. Yeah, there was no oh, check out this riff that uses this thing. Listen to, how Paul McCartney, wow, first finger connects in Obla D, whatever. There was none of that because I hadn't done the work to put it together. And I lost some great students as a result of that. Yeah, it was a big mistake.
Yeah, for sure. You need to contextualize. That's a really important thing, isn't it? To actually tell the student the why.
Yes.
Because they need to know. Like, I think that the criminally obvious example is scales and arpeggios. Like, teachers going like, okay, as you said, let's learn some scales. Let's learn some
harmonic minor
arpeggios. Exactly. And I was that student who wasn't told, and if you don't know, like, how long are you going to do that? How long are you going to chip at that rock? Unless, there's, I don't know, I'm coming up with a crap analogy here, but if you don't know there's not any gold behind the stone, you're not going to chip that, you're not going to keep chipping, are you?
No.
Whereas if you know there's something behind it, there's some reason to do that, then you are going to keep, going in that direction until you hit gold. So I think that, is really important. Just to take it back to my own kids, something I found, not only contextualizing the reasons behind learning stuff like arpeggios and scales and stuff like that, but also contextualizing why we practice in very specific ways. So, for instance, Story's been working on a particular piano piece, and he's got like this. It's like a piano run, sort of like a 2-octave piano run down. And he's got very specific fingering that he needs to use for it. And he was like mucking it up. He was tripping over and stuff like that. I was like, whoa. I was like, let's break that down. I was like, let's half that.
Yes.
Let's half it. And so he halves it. And he's a 10-year-old strong little, character.
Yeah.
So he's like, why? Why? Why, Dad? I'm like, well, because what this is going to do is going to give you a better chance of learning it. And he's like, no. I was like, okay. So I need to contextualize it. So for him, I was like, well, here's the deal. I was like, there's this thing called the motor cortex. And it actually this is the part of the brain that sends out all of the programs.
Yes.
So when you break something down like this, okay, you take that run and you half it.
Yeah.
The reason why you're cutting it in half and working on a smaller piece of it is to give your motor cortex a better chance of learning that movement. So instead of trying to teach it all at once, we just break that down into that small chunk, and it gives it a chance to learn it better. And that is why we also slow it down. So we half it, and then we slow it down, and then we loop it.
Yes.
Zabba-dabba-dabba, 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 zabba-dabba-dabba. You know, and he was into it. He was like,
oh, that's so cool. Yeah.
Because you've contextualized it. You've actually talked about how
Yes.
the body works and what's happening when he's doing it. And I was like, hey, actually, it doesn't even matter if you even think about it when you're doing this. Just run that thing. You can think about Rubik's Cubes. You can think about what you're going to do next. Like, whatever.
Your brain is
just
churning it.
Your motor cortex is just absorbing that movement up. I was like, yeah. And I come up with, ways of helping him understand how the motor cortex works and stuff like that.
Yes.
So I think that contextualizing for students is really, really important. And it's just, it all comes down to communication, right? Becoming a great communicator. Yeah.
That chunking out thing, I don't think I was the one that said this. I'm sure I wasn't, but I say this a lot. I don't know if this would work with my kids or any kids at all, but for adults, like I say, if you take a look at the Sir Duke unison line that whole band plays, right, with the horns and everything, every bar is a masterpiece. So I say, don't think about getting the whole thing. Enjoy every bar, because boom, that bar is so dope. That could be its own bass line. A whole song. Yeah. It could just be that bass line. The second line, that is sick. It's the best. Yeah. Right? And so like every bar, you're going to learn something that's going to be delicious. Every bar is a masterpiece. And then at the end, you have all these masterpieces that you get to put together. Yeah. I mean, boy, I really struggled with that, because I was like, we'll get to songs, but first, 7 forms of the major scale. You got to do it. Can I ask you another question? What about this? What about something that challenged you? Did you ever have a moment where a student brought something in to you and was like, I want to learn this, and you couldn't play it there on the spot? And it stressed out your ego, or it stressed out your, you had to do a ton of work to then ascertain that to be able to teach it?
Yeah, not necessarily in that exact form, but I've had people come to me when I was younger, and this does happen, and I think that this shouldn't put people off teaching. As I said before, I think everybody should teach. I think everybody should be, trying to pass on what they've learned to people that are sort of like coming up and helping them. Yeah. And if you want, you can charge, we can get into, becoming a bass teacher, and whether you need qualifications and how to know when the time is right, all of that shit, right? We'll get to that in a minute. But if you are doing that, just like anything, right? If you are a gigging musician or want to be in a gigging musician, you are going to put yourself, if you're pushing yourself enough, you're going to put yourself in a situation where suddenly you are out of your comfort zone and you feel like you got burned a bit.
Out of your depth.
Same deal with teaching. Some kid is going to turn up and they're going to be a badass. Yes. And you're going to be like, oh shit, and I've had somebody do that to me. Somebody came to me, and they were a great, great player. And I tried to, instead of sort of like just pulling them apart or trying to pull them apart, do this, do that, I was just like transparent straight away. I was like, man, you're great. I was like, you're great. Like, there's nothing really jumping to mind that's, where I'm like, oh, you should do this, you should do that. So bear that in mind. But what I would say is, have you tried something like this? This is something like I've been trying to work on, yada, yada, yada. Yes. And not trying to cover it up. And if they are the same level as you, or even a little bit past it, just be transparent. Say, hey, you know what? I don't think that I think that you're not at the right level for me. It's no shame.
Oh, that's so healthy.
I learned that through somebody doing it to me. Wow. I went for a lesson. Yeah, I went for a lesson and sat down. And I was that kid who, I just got to this guy and he was like, whoa. He was like, and
You're
he was
playing
like,
all these chops, trying to impress your teacher.
yeah. And we were probably like the same level, and he could have tried to blag it, but he was actually super cool about it. He was like, look, you're obviously at a level where you need somebody more advanced than I am. He said, but let's take this hour and I'm going to show you some of the stuff I've been working on, and maybe it'll be really helpful for you. Game on. Right? No shame.
Yeah.
No shame. No kind of like weirdness.
Incredible.
It was great. So I remembered that, and then when it happened to me, same deal. I was like, I just did the same thing. So in terms of that, like just bringing it back, is there any qualifications that you need to become a bass teacher? Like, absolutely not. Like Ian was saying that you got no sort of like specific music qualifications.
Nope.
I don't know, like, has Gary Willis got any like
I don't think
music
so,
qualifications?
right?
Has Victor Wooten got any music qualifications?
Right.
I don't think so.
Right.
They're just great players, So I think that with those two things in mind, number one, that everybody should be teaching, and there's always like stories just got into Rubik's Cubes over the last couple of years, and he's teaching his sister. There's no particular point where it's like, oh, now you can do it. It's like, is there a particular point when you can gig? No, of course not. Okay,
Right.
You can, as soon as you're up and going, you can gig. But I think that also just being honest with where you're at and what level of teaching's, for you is also beneficial as well. Don't promise the moon on a stick, be truthful. Just like when I started out, I started out teaching beginners. I was helping out my guitar teacher when I was 15 or 16. She was, putting me with little groups where the kids were like, I don't know, they were probably sort of like 8 to 12 years old or something like that. And that was me getting my teaching chops together. So I think that you don't need any qualifications and that everybody should be teaching, but also be honest with yourself about what your level and what you're specifically going to do. And a big fat caveat of when you do start teaching, really try and be serious about it and not see it as a side, not even a side gig, just some sort of like shit on the side.
Yes.
This is going to tide me by until I get a real gig or whatever. Like really take it seriously, because I think there's so much to be gained out of becoming a great teacher.
So much. How it levels up your playing, how it builds relationship with other people that are going to start probably gigging in your town or digitally, even if you're doing Skype or lessons or something, and they can connect you with people. It is endless. The roads, right, where teaching leads you. Like it's an amazing thing. And I think too, for me, I was thrust into this college environment and I was a good player, but I will never forget when a kid came to me and said, I need to play the head of Donna Lee for the jazz ensemble. And I was like, oh my God. Whoa. And he was like, can you show that to me? I said, not today. And you know what it was for me? I went home. I mean, I bought the Omni book. I went home and I worked my ass off. And the time for me, I learned more about the bass and jazz and music theory my 10 years teaching at a college, because I had to be able to explain it. And I took it so seriously because it was either that or stock vending machines. And I didn't want to stock vending machines, man. I didn't want to do it. So I was like, I gotta take this seriously. And so I came back in with Teen Town under my belt. I came back in with, Donna Lee under my belt, because there were these jazz ensembles and I was the bass teacher. So the leader of the jazz ensemble would like, well, learn it from Ian. Oh my God, what a pressure cooker. But it was the best thing for me. It was incredible. So to all, any of you old NCU students that maybe listen to this podcast, I did not know Donna Lee when I got there. But I picked it up, baby.
Hey, you only need to be a couple of weeks ahead. That's what my dad used to say. My dad's a golf teacher, or you used to be a golf teacher when he was younger. He's just turned 78 now. He sometimes listens to this. So, hey, Dad, if you're listening.
Yeah, Roger.
But Roger D. But he used to be a golf teacher, and he said to me many times, he was like, "Hey, you just need to be a couple of weeks ahead, because you're going to be, because then you can show them what you've learned, and I think there's some truth in that. But so I don't think any qualifications needed. I think that you just need to be truthful of where you're at,
that's great,
and really take it seriously, and try to, just sort of like a couple of big things. Try and have a curriculum. try and have some kind of curriculum to take
and show it to
through.
them.
Yeah. Show them where the pathway. In the UK, it's a little easier because we've got this thing called the grades,
right,
which is really fantastic. It's eight levels basically. You can do it in any instrument. Loads of different styles. You can do it in rock guitar or jazz guitar or whatever. Right? You can do it in bass. It was awesome, dude. And I never did the grades on bass, but I did the grades on guitar, on classical guitar, and it really helped because I always knew what I was going to do next.
Yeah, what you're
I did grade
for.
1, then grade 2, then grade 3, grade 4. It's like karate belts for music, right?
Yes.
And Story's doing it at the minute, and he loves it. He's working towards his grade 1, and and he really wants a distinction. So his piano teacher was like, "Hey, do you want to take your exam?" He's like, "No, I'm not ready. I want to get my distinction." And then she's like, "And then maybe you can jump to grade 3 if you want and pass grade 2." And he's like, "Whoa.
Wow. Yeah. Skip a grade. Whoa. Yeah.
Exactly. It's really, really important, So, and I'm not saying you need to use the grades, but just have a curriculum. And you don't need to create your own. You can use somebody else's. Like SBL, we created Players Path for that exact same thing, right?
Yeah.
To give people a really clear system to use. Hell, if you're a member of SBL and you've got access to Players Path, just use Players Path. Use
Seriously.
all of the,
for your own teaching. Yes,
for your own teaching.
Absolutely.
Print that stuff off and give it to your students and use Players Path. Get them playing along with them tunes. It'd be really fantastic. So have a curriculum. And then number 2, and obviously if you're doing number 2, which is take it freaking seriously, because it's going to be, if you want to be a pro musician or a semi-pro musician, teaching's probably going to be a bit, a part of your life for a long time. So take it seriously and do a great job of it, because there's a lot to learn for yourself as well. It will help you learn as a bass player and as a musician when you pass that knowledge on. I was working on something today, right? I was working on something today. I'm doing an album in a couple of months' time, and the pieces are effing hard as shit.
Yes, I do not envy you. I mean, I was taking a look at that. I'm like, is there a bass player in the house? God,
it's
man.
really hard. Yeah, it's really hard stuff. And I'm working on this intro, and I'm using the same techniques that I was using with Story this morning when I sat doing piano with him. I'm breaking it down into small pieces. I'm sort of like, hey, this bit's freaking me out a bit. I'm like, I can't get it under my fingers. I'm like, no, don't worry. It's going to be cool. Just disconnect yourself from it. Move on. We're going to come back to that. Okay, Don't freak out about it. We'll come back. So it's a lot of the psychological things that you learn when you're teaching a student, you will apply to yourself, for sure. Yes. It's just a great skill to really learn and become. I think it's something that we should all be trying to become master at. Is teaching. It's so awesome. It's just communication at its finest.
Can I add a number to your list?
Yeah, go for it.
I think it's really important to identify your ego and then try to keep your ego at bay when you're teaching, because there is always this teacher self and player self. And if you think about teacher as the giver, right, as the supporter, as ego-less, but the player, the striver, the go-getter, right, the gigging machine, the take every opportunity, that's the ego. And I struggled in the beginning. I mean, I can be very transparent. I struggled when there was somebody that was really good. I wanted in the beginning to fool them. I did not do the healthy thing that person did for you and that you did for that other student of saying, hey, you know what? I think you're beyond my level. I think you need to go see somebody. I think now I'm totally happy to say that to most people. But there was a time in my life when I was very guarded and very insecure about my own playing. And I always wanted to be the baddest and the fastest and know more and, be the one that was right. And that's just insecurity and ego. So if you're wondering about, oh, wow, I don't think I'm a good teacher. I wonder if when people are like, oh, I'm not a good teacher, I can't teach. I wonder if it's about that insecurity, if it's about that thing of, I'll be seen. They're going to see me for who I am. Maybe I'm not as good as I think or as good as the student. but it is an incredible opportunity you have to let go of some of that, or at least just begin to recognize it and then wonder if if your hackles go up a little bit in a lesson. Ooh, is that from your player ego kind of getting in the way? Always wondering that stuff, right? Because I don't feel myself as a very competitive person now, but I used to be. I was like, how long's Victor Wooten been playing? 25 years? Sweet. I've only been playing for 3. I'm going to be better. Like that stupid crap that we all do like as teenagers. That lasted probably a little too long in me. And I think that just check that in yourself as you're wondering about teaching, and see if the joy of like turning on light bulbs for people helps sort of ease some of that feeling of like that you've got to be the baddest. Guess what? You're not the baddest.
I'm smiling because I had that same thing. I was like, how long they been playing for? All right, I'm cool.
Yeah, I'm good. All good. I'll be better.
It's so interesting,
it's
isn't
so funny.
It?
Yeah.
It's bonkers. Anyway, so we talked about hopefully we've enthused people to get into teaching if you haven't already, because again, I think that everybody should be teaching. And just to take it back to where can you teach? If you're thinking about becoming a teacher, we'll talk about how to get students in a minute. But in terms of, where to teach, well, there's lots of different places. There's, one-to-one at your place. So people can come around your house. You can go to their house. You can do it in schools where you go to the school like Ian did. Well, actually, you did it in a college, didn't you? But you can do it to like senior schools. I'm assuming you can do it in schools younger than that as well.
For sure. Yep.
Yeah. And you can also do it from music stores. Like that's less of a thing, I think, in the UK, but it's definitely a thing in the US.
Oh, it's a big thing in the US. Yeah, music stores. There's a ton of teaching stuff happening there. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's all of these different places that you can teach. And then also you can teach online. You can teach via Skype. Like that is a game changer. Like back in the day, people used to go into music shops with a little bit of paper with little bits that you could pull off, and they'd stick it on the board, and it'd be like, hey, bass teacher, and then you used to pull a tab off, and then you'd phone them, right? That was that's what people did, and then you'd figure out whether they were going to come to your place or you were going to go to their place, and all of that, and that's cool, right? That's cool. But there's also this thing called online, and you can actually teach one-to-one online, which is what I used to do. I used to do a lot of teaching over Skype as well, and it's got a lot better than it used to be. Like now you've got Zoom, and you've got all of these cool things. Like back in the day, there used to be like really horrible lag on Skype, but now it's a lot easier. So think about it like this: you're not teaching in your town anymore. Like you can do that, and that is really awesome if you want to do that. If you want to go and do schools and the music shop and stuff like that, that is in your town. But also you have got a window to the world as well, and you can teach somebody in New York, LA, London, Leeds, Manchester, wherever you are.
Yep.
You could be living in Nantucket. I don't even know what Nantucket is. You could be in Nantucket, and you could be a badass bass teacher and have students in New York, LA, London, and all of the places, because you can now teach over Zoom. So, in terms of, I don't know, like we could sort of like go super deep on this, but I think we should also get onto the money stuff as well, like how to earn more money as a bass teacher as well.
Show me the money.
In terms of show me the money. But in terms of getting students, yes, you can contact schools. So contact schools, see if there's any opportunities going there. Meet other instrument teachers at the schools. That's always another great in as well. You can, do the music shop thing where you go to the music shop, try and introduce yourself to the music shop, or put your name up on the board so people can sort of like pull your name off and give you a call and all of that thing, right? So you can do that. And then also to teach online via Skype, the best way to do that really is to start creating an online persona for yourself, like have an Instagram page.
I was hoping you were going to say that. Yes.
Yeah, like an Instagram page where people can find you, and you're putting up content that's helpful, whether you're teaching things, and then at the end of the piece of content or whatever, or in your bio on Instagram, you're like, hey, if you want one-on-one lessons, hey, give me a shout. Okay, I'm here to help. We can do it over Zoom or whatever. And a lot of people are doing this now. Are doing this now. Yeah.
And it's so critical. I think the Instagram thing, TikTok, wherever you want to be, to
YouTube,
point people. Yeah, YouTube, absolutely YouTube. Pointing people to that and then making content and thinking about making videos about things that you love, maybe about theoretical things, or even just things that are fun. Because do you know what I've found, dude? I do not make a lot of content on my own page that is like super base teachery. I mean, obviously for SBL,
it's more inspirational, isn't it?
It is more. And yeah, and I'm demonstrating things and I'm playing along to songs, I'm playing effects and stuff. Not to toot my own horn here, Scott, but I get a lot of requests for people wanting to study with me. And it's not because they think that I'm going to show them the modes better than someone else. It's because they want to spend time. So something else to really think about is when you're building this persona, think about, you want to be somebody that someone wants to spend time with. That's more, scale is a scale. Anyone can show you how to play a scale. You can learn how to play a scale or the modes or triads from anybody. Who do you want to spend the time with? Who do you feel good around? Be that person. Like that, dude, when I saw your content, Scott, in the beginning, I was like, this is a dude I want to hang with, you know? Because it was so inviting and charming. And like, that is such a way bigger part of the pie than I think people realize. It's a big part of the pie. Be somebody that is fun, doesn't take it, like, is serious about what they do, but don't take don't take yourself too seriously, right? And make content with that in mind, and people will just gravitate towards that. You want them to gravitate toward your personality, not the fact that you can teach them how to burn through the Charlie Parker Omni book. That doesn't matter. What matters is how you are and how you deliver that information.
Yeah, exactly that. And just along the same lines of that, we're actually talking right here about how to make more money. If without actually saying it, but just to say it out loud, what we're really talking about with using, let's say, Instagram or YouTube or Facebook or any of these social media platforms, what we're talking about here is getting more students.
Yeah.
So the easiest way to earn more money to begin with is get more students, right? It's just like get more volume. So to get more volume, the volume of students, people knocking on your door, the first place I would go is trying to build that online presence to connect with people, because they are your prospective students. You can teach them over Zoom. So that's what, in terms of step number one of earning more money, get online, start thinking a little bit bigger about, the demographic you can teach, or the geographical space, that you could teach in. It's actually global. You can get students all over. And really, please disconnect yourself from this this myth that you need sort of like 10 or 20,000 Instagram followers. You don't. You will. It's true. Honestly, you will get there if you've got hundreds of followers, and then you will get thousands of followers, right? You just need to chip away. But all you need to do really is have like 30 students, and that is a great gig.
Yes,
so you don't need actually hundreds of thousands of students or whatever, right?
Right.
You don't need that many.
You can't have that in the beginning, right?
Exactly. That's what you're working towards that. So you get more students. Step number one. That's how you earn more money, by getting more students. The easiest way, or one of the easiest ways is to start working on an online presence, start an Instagram page or a YouTube page, and within that content, let people know. Not all the time in every piece of content, but say, hey, sometimes put a post up, say, hey, one-on-one lessons are available.
Absolutely.
Next up is, this sounds a bit bonkers, a lot of people might push back against this, offer a free taste lesson.
Oh, I love this. I remember you said this, and I'm glad we're going to talk about it.
Yeah.
Why? Why should I give away anything for free, Scott Devine? Dude, my time is so worth. I'm worth something. Why should I give something away for free? The audacity, dude! I gotta eat. I gotta put food on the table for my family. Why?
Here's the deal, right? If you go to any piece of software, most pieces of software now, right? When you're thinking about signing up for something, on that sales page, that landing page, it will say, take a free trial. Yeah. Take a 14-day free trial. Take a 7-day trial. Whatever it is, take a free trial. Okay. What happens when you go to SBL? Take a free trial. The reason why all of these services offer you a free trial is because they know that once you take that free trial, there is way more chance of you becoming embedded in that, using that software, or with us, getting embedded in the lessons, and then you are going to continue on as a student or user of that software. It just, the chances of you, carrying on as a student are way, way more. So when I say offer people a free taster lesson, whether it be 30 minutes or whatever like that, what I'm saying is let people hang out with you for 30 minutes, deliver value, paint a picture of the future for them, and say, hey, okay, right, like if you work with me, this is what we're going to do over the next 2 or 3 months. Paint a picture of the future, okay? Take stock of where they are. Help them understand where they are as well as a student. Looks like you could do work on there. Like you could say sort of, okay, take a free taster lesson and we'll go through this 30-minute assessment to find out where you are as a player.
Ooh.
There's a lot of different things that you could throw in there to help people. And do not think of this as, let me put it this way, right? If 8 in 10 or 9 in 10 people that take that free taster lesson are not carrying on to be students of yours, you're doing something wrong.
Well, yes.
Okay, that's the actual reality of it. Okay, so if somebody's feeling a bit weird about free, what? They want me to get online with somebody for free? What you should be aiming for is 9 out of 10 people are actually going to book lessons with you.
Yeah.
And then, so just to sort of like take you through the steps that we've talked about here, number 1, get more students. Number 2, best way of doing that, probably, there is other ways of doing it, but one of the main ones is get online, because it's going to, geographically open you wide open, wide up.
Bigger market,
wide open
baby.
To get more. Yeah, bigger market, right? Then, after you're sort of like online, offer people a free taster lesson. Or even if it's in, like go to the local music store, be the guy or the girl who's advertising lessons at that local music store, and he's offering a free taster lesson. Or free 30-minute diagnostic. Ooh. Come in, we're going to diagnose what's up with your playing, what are your biggest roadblocks, and then we're going to paint a picture over the next 2 or 3 months to show you how you're going to get to that next level.
Oh, I love that.
Right, so this works online and offline, right? So offer that free taster session. Now, when somebody comes in, you've got to deliver that value. You've got to show them where they're at and then paint that picture of the future. And then, next step, once you've sort of like opened up geographically, and you're offering that free taster session, free diagnostic, free whatever it is, once you've done that, then you work on your student retention. That's keeping the students that you've got for longer. So Ian sort of like alluded to this earlier. He was like, I lost a few great students.
Yes.
Because he wasn't working on his student retention, right? So
Correct.
Student retention is how long you keep somebody for. So let's say somebody comes in and starts, getting lessons from you as a teacher. Doesn't matter what instrument, right? They're getting lessons from you. You've painted, obviously, or hopefully, you've painted a picture of the future, and hopefully, going back to what we were talking about earlier, you've got a curriculum that you are going to work with, because not only is the curriculum way better for the student because it's going to be their yellow brick road that is going to take them to Oz, right? They're going to follow that brick road, and then they're going to get to the big man. Okay. Not only does that work for them, it also works for the teacher, because it makes your job easier as a teacher, because you're not trying to freaking come up with something new every week. And number 2, it's great for retention, because they're going to bail if they don't know what the future looks like. Yep. They're going to bail if they do not have a path to follow. So work on that student retention. You don't want somebody leaving after like 4 weeks or 4 lessons. You want somebody with you for 6 or 12 or 24 months or longer.
Right.
You really need to look at like increasing that student retention. So one way of doing that, obviously, is increase using a curriculum to give them that sort of like the view of the future, so they're always working on something. Another way of doing that is actually to do with pricing, so block pricing.
Selling packs.
Selling packs. Hey, should we do it for 4 weeks? Do you want to do a 4-week block? Do you want to do an 8-week block? Do you want to do a 16-week block? And as you offer these blocks, they get a discount as you want to incentivize them having a block. So if they're truly serious about this, you can pay whatever, $50 a lesson or whatever like that, $100 a lesson. But if if you block sort of like do 4, well, then you're going to get it for like, 10% off. If you do 8, you're going to get it like, 15% off. If you do 16, you're going to get 20% off.
Yes.
So what that is doing is, and the teacher, if they're not financially savvy, will feel like they're getting, raped. They're like, oh, whatever, like I'm losing money. Bad. It's just you're not sort of like financially thinking about this clear enough. Okay, what's going to happen is it's going to increase your student retention.
Exactly.
So that's the deal. You're going to lock them in for longer, right?
Yes.
I don't use the word lock them in, but you know what I'm saying, right? It's going to keep them within your space for longer. So it's really important. Yeah. So work on the student retention by having a clear curriculum so they know the future. It's going to make your job easier as well because retention is going to get better. Sell in blocks if possible, 4, 8, 16 lessons. Give them a discount if they book more because that'll incentivize it. And number 3 is get them involved in a student community, in your student community. So because people will not want to lose that.
Right.
Can you imagine going to somebody's coming to you, Ian, right, in Minneapolis. Let's say you're teaching back in the day, right? Somebody comes to your house and they're like hanging out, right, blah, blah, blah. And then once a month, you have like a free afternoon hangout, right?
Oh, I should have done that.
Dude, and it's free. And people are like, what? It's free? Am I not giving away my time? What? Well, actually, you're really increasing your student retention here because people are going to come to this community hang. They're going to come to Ian's studio or wherever, right? He's going to show them their FX bells. He's going to invite them along with their basses. We're going to maybe play some sort of like bass duet.
That sounds fun right now. I want to do that right now.
Exactly, right? So you doing all that. Hey, they stop getting lessons with Ian. They stop coming to these community hangs.
You lose the community, right?
You lose the community, yeah.
Right.
So and this isn't shady. This is just like it's awesome. It's creating an awesome experience, but it also helps that student retention as well.
Yeah.
So that's the way I'd be thinking about getting earning more. I'd want more students, and once I've got more students, and to get more students, I would open up that the geography of the space I'm aiming at, and then I would make the barrier to entry 0. The barrier to entry is 0. So people are going to come in and get a free whatever, free taster lesson, free diagnostic, free whatever. But and then when they come in, you're going to deliver value, and that is going to make them want to carry on with you. You're going to paint a picture of the future. They're going to sign up. And when they sign up, you're going to do them for a block of 4, 8, or 16. You're going to incentivize that so that they get a discount when they do take a block. And then once you've got them in and then everything's golden, then you're going to introduce them to your community group as well, where you're going to hang and create this awesome sort of like monthly or bi-weekly experience for them. So they get to hang out with their peers, meet people just like they are, and hang and just talk about gear and all of that fun stuff. And, and you can even do this online as well. Like you can totally do this online as well. So that's how I do it. Done.
That was like a blueprint, man. That was like that was a step by step. I want to give somebody a shout out really quick. There's a friend of mine who listens to the pod sometimes called Josh Clutter, who's a guitar player, singer, and he and I he works at a church called Eaglebrook Church where I used to play a while back, and he was asking he was the guy I was telling you listens to your episode around building an online business, and he listened to it a number of times. Not just once, maybe even more than 5 times. And we were talking about content, and I was like, man, you really it's about personality. It's about fun. It's, it's not just about, don't put content up about scales. And then the next day he put this reel up of him saying, oh, well, hey, welcome to your first lesson. I'm Josh, I'm your teacher. And it was his newborn baby daughter who was and she's on the floor. And he's like, no, you need to put your hands on the guitar. What are you doing? And it's just this funny montage of him trying to, get the student to work, but it's an infant, and it's hilarious. Amazing. And I just want to give him a shout, man. Like that's the stuff. Obviously, I mean, you can do a lot of things that are actually like valuable in terms of here's what I know, here's what I love, but a little comedy, oh baby, a little comedy goes a long way to just show your personality. And man, Josh, if you hear this, dude, I was proud of you. It's awesome. And I hope you got some students. I hope like opening up your personality helps with, getting people to walk through your door or walk through your digital door. Just think it's amazing.
Yeah.
So that like online building thing cannot be overstated for me. That's how a lot of opportunity came my way. If I wanted to open up some kind of teaching thing, I would have that opportunity because there are a lot of people that ask that of me. Hey man, can I get private lessons? Hey, do you do that? And right now I don't have the capacity to do that. I'm not doing that. But
you could be booked up.
I could be booked up. I always talk about a cloning device, man. Come on, Elon. Let's get that cloning device going. I'll have one of me that just does teaching.
Yeah. Hey, I also thought of another, I guess, sort of, another way of getting more students as well, just while you were saying that. And I think and I've seen this used by a lot of players who are a little bit more experienced in the online thing. So they haven't got sort of like online programs or anything like that, but they do teach one-to-one. And something they do, which I think is bang on, is every sort of like month or every 2 weeks, they'll put up a post on Instagram and it'll say, hey, a few slots have opened up for one-on-ones.
Yes,
A few slots are open and available. Will probably fill up by the end of the day or the end of the weekend.
Tickets are low.
Shout. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Give me a shout via DM if you want a lesson. So what does that do? It actually drives people to prospective students. It drives them to make a decision.
Yeah.
Because inherently humans, we're freaking stupid little things, right? Honestly. But we do not make decisions easily. We sit on the fence, we procrastinate and all of that stuff.
Yes,
right? So what you're doing there as a teacher is saying, hey, I've got a few slots open up. They'll probably be gone by the end of the weekend. Give me a shout via DM if you want in. Okay. Now the reality is that they might have 15 slots. Okay, a few slots have opened up, or 20 slots, or whatever. But what they've done is they've put a message out into the ether, into the interwebs that says, "Hey, I've got a few slots available, a few." So as a reader of that content, I'm like, what does that do? It's scarcity. Okay,
yes, scarcity mindset. That's right.
Sales psychology right here, right? Check it out. Yeah. Scarcity and urgency used together are one of the most powerful things in sales. Next time you go to a shop or you see a deal on TV or whatever, you see if they're using scarcity and urgency together, because it's a real.
Call now.
It drives people. So check it out. Here's the secret. If you didn't actually spot it in the language that I just used. I've got a few spots available. What's that? Scarcity or urgency?
Scarcity.
That's scarcity. How do they put then the urgency? They'll probably fill up by the end of the weekend.
Yep.
So you boom, two whack it. I mean, like boom, double pound.
Yeah.
Right? It's the scarcity, the urgency used together. And for a student that wants to study with that person, that pushes me off the fence. I'm like, whoa!
Oh, I should do this. I should jump in.
I've been thinking about doing that.
Yeah.
I'm going to go now. Okay.
Yeah. And, you see this a lot too, right? You see this with people doing shows like tickets. There's a few tickets left for the LA show, get them before they're gone. You see people do this with small batch runs. Jake Sarek is shout out Jake Sarek. You are the master of this. He makes these small batch runs of bases. The Grand, they come out once or twice a year. He makes a number of pieces and they're gone. And the way he markets it's, yeah, there's so many. There's a company from the Ukraine too, Analog Music Company, that just sent me over this amazing filter pedal, and they do these small batch runs. It's so cool. Yeah, and they do these small batches, and just zoof, the stuff's gone. So yeah, I mean, and I think too, like, if I used to sort of feel like, oh, but that's shady, I don't want to say that because it's not true. But is it not true? Like, I think about that, like, okay, if I were thinking about my life is very full. So if I have a few spots open up, that's probably true. Like if you think about it for yourself, like, okay, maybe you have 15 spots, but what's a few, right? A few is a very loose, vague term.
Right? It is a loose, vague term.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Absolutely. And probably all we got is a few. So I think lean into that because your time is valuable. And once you've established yourself and you use that terminology, I think it can be very true. You're not going to open up your whole life for students. course, right?
Exactly,
You only have a few spots. They are probably going to go fast. So lean into that and it will become more true over time.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I've got one more and then we'll go.
Yeah, please.
The last one as well, for people that are online, this is for people that are online, up and running already. You've got like you're teaching one-to-one, you're doing that whole thing, you've got an Instagram page or YouTube and stuff like that. Create an online product. Create an online product, because that's another really easy. Yeah, it's a really easy way. Another easy way to earn more money as a teacher is create an online product, whether that is an educational product or whether it is in Ian's case, like patches. What do you call them? Not presets. Yeah, presets for your pedal board. Like, create an online product, because once you've created it, then you can sell that to the students that you have, but you can also sell it to, if you've got followers online, you can sell it to them as well. People, man, can I say something?
Please.
Let me just say something. To the man who commented on our YouTube channel and said that we shouldn't be talking about anything to do with finances or anything to do that, and he said it was the worst show ever. Yeah,
I didn't see this comment.
It made him feel slimy or whatever.
Oh,
specifically to that man.
Yeah.
Or anybody else feeling like that. I really invite you to sort of like think differently about building a business as a musician. My assumption is that you are not building a business as a musician, because it's actually really, really helpful for musicians to hear this thing, right? And when people come forward and say, God, I felt turned off by this. I felt like, it was slime and stuff like that.
Branding, sales, yuck.
Sales. What they're inherently doing implicitly is actually freaking making all of the musicians feel like they have done for the last 50 years or more. Like they can't talk about money. It's dirty to talk about money. Oh, we're musicians. We have to be on the bread line. Like all of that shit. So
yes.
Consider this my pushback against you, my friend.
Yes.
I thought about that comment. I felt sorry for the other musicians reading it, because if they listened to that and then saw that comment, I think it would be very unhelpful for them. Don't see this as a personal attack on you, by the way. I'm sure that you're a very cool guy, but I think that musicians over decades and decades have not had the financial sort of intelligence of how to, conduct themselves in a way that sets them up for success.
Agreed.
And I think it's actually really a travesty, and this goes right to the top. All of the top way back in the sort of like the 90s, people getting screwed, artists getting screwed because, hey man, it's not about the money, it's all about the music, and that really upsets me actually. So yeah, just consider a bit of pushback. It's actually really important, for musicians.
It's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay if you want to make money at something you're good at and something you're passionate about. It's okay. It doesn't mean you're slimy. You've worked so hard. Think about how hard you've worked. Like, you've worked so hard. Why shouldn't you be able to make money, make a living, monetize? It's not dirty. It's amazing. And also this reminds me of somebody I gave a lesson to, Captain Fat Hands from the True Crime Garage podcast. Hands. Yeah, man. Who
said your name wrong, right?
Oh, I know. I did. And he said to me, you need to give people an opportunity. So it's not slimy. You need to give people an opportunity to support you. So think about, offering lessons, offering shirts, offering preset packs, whatever it is, whatever that you're trying to monetize. Instead of thinking of it as dirty and sleazy and slimy and salesy, think about it as an opportunity to allow your fans or allow people that want to work with you in some capacity to support you. He's like, you have to flip it. You have to think of it as a gift. You're offering them a way to support you. They want to support you. Give them the opportunity. And boy, that was a big one for me. That was a big mindset change for me, because Scott, I was like this poster for the longest time. I was, I would never come out and say it. I would never leave that as a comment on somebody's YouTube channel. You'd have to be a psychopath. But I just never, I always felt it like, oh, this is gross branding, yuck. But then I came around. I really came around. I'm like, no. Turned 40. I'm like, no. This is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And I need to figure out how to get my ducks in a row. And I'm still trying to figure it out, dude.
It's so weird, isn't it? That whole, I think that the arts industry is actually like maybe one of the worst affected for like working individuals, and how they feel this inherent guilt around sort of like speaking about money or earning money. Like, I feel really crappy about it, actually. I think that this industry could just be so much cooler if that wasn't sort of like this underlying thing. And hey, I think that it's actually dying. I think that it's going to be much more open and transparent in the future. And I'm really excited about that. Now, you said that sort of like your friends listened to that. I did the podcast about how I would create an online business. I think it's like a gazillion episodes ago. It was like a solo episode I did. And you said the mate that you mentioned today, listened to like 4 or 5 times over, stuff like that.
Yeah.
This stuff is really, really helpful for people, because it's actually really simple to do, not easy. It's simple and easy are 2 different things. It's simple to do, and it's available to everybody, right? It's available to everybody. Sorry, I feel like I just pulled the podcast off in a bit of a dark. that comment
dude, I love it.
Up in my
I
mind.
love it. No, I love it. And I should clarify, because I was sitting here thinking, oh, I just called that commenter a psychopath. I didn't mean to. I want to clarify that statement, because I certainly don't mean to call you a psychopath, sir, and I don't think you are one.
He's just probably a totally nice guy. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I would ever leave that kind of feedback on somebody's channel, because I always feel like big negative opinions as comments show you more about you, show something more about the commenter than the content creator. And I am just about giving love in comments, and I never feel like I want to leave that pushback, because I don't know, I don't want to show my cards, or I don't want to I always look at people that leave that kind of feedback with empathy of like, ooh, something must be going wrong in their lives. Like, I wonder if that person that's leaving that is thinking, is actually maybe wanting to build something, but feeling dirty about it because they've listened to those old guard voices about how, oh, you only should make art for art's sake. And right. Like maybe this language would help them the most, dude,
Yeah. Like I'm all for the negative. I'm all for the negative comments. I haven't got an issue. Oh, no, yeah. Let me think.
Well, you're not leaving that stuff. You're receiving it. You get the negative comments, but you're not leaving those comments on other. Can you imagine going on to other? That's what I'm saying. Yeah. But I don't mind people leaving negative comments on stuff that we do, or giving us pushback either. I really don't, because if I really, really did, I would just delete them, and I don't delete them because I think that they actually are valuable. Same.
In many ways. That said, I just felt particularly and this is interesting because I've never talked about one specific comment in like the 100 episodes plus that we've done. But the reason why I felt so sad about that comment was actually not to do with me. I could care less. You know what I mean? It's not to do with me. It's about other musicians. It's the other musicians that are struggling and want to be able to, build a business, expand what they're doing, maybe take that online, maybe grow a brand around themselves, do all of that. And they read a comment like that, and then they don't do it because of it. Because
they go, it's not cool to do that. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, because I've had friends in my life that were that voice, actually, that were that negative, and they weren't as out, they didn't say it in the same way. It was more of a undertone, but that really, really helped. All it takes is a little negative undertone about your idea, about where you want to go, right? All it takes is this tiny little undertone to knock you off, and you will not do it. So interestingly, there was a friend of mine I think about it often, actually, and he was a good friend, but he was just the type of character that, you know, just had something, you'd have an idea and there'd be a little veiled insult, whatever,
sure.
But I loved him, man. I loved him, and he actually moved away. And we didn't see each other regularly anymore. And I wonder if I'd have ever done SBL, if he might have been that voice in my ear that I really didn't need. Because it was a big deal. I was nervous. I'd never done anything online. I was putting myself in front of the world and I was shitting my pants, right?
Yes.
And if somebody came along, and even in a veiled kind of insult way, we're like, why would you even do that? That's all it takes, because I am looking for an excuse not to do it. There's a part of you that's looking for the excuse. And part of you will be like, actually, maybe they are right. Maybe I won't do it.
Maybe I won't do it. It's going to be really hard. It's going to be, they're probably right. Oh, yeah. I mean, I remember when I was going to start posting a lot on Instagram, I had this real conviction about it and I was excited and I thought that people would get it. And I remember telling a lot of people who just sort of were like, oh, going to talk about nerdy bass things on Instagram? Good luck with that, kind of was the vibe. And I remember that being like, oh, but thank God I just had, I was pumped about it, and I was like, it doesn't matter. I'm still going to do it. But there are friends that said some stuff to me in the early days of it that hurt my feelings, man, bummed me out, made me kind of question it for sure. Glad I did it. But yeah, you're right, dude. It's not about you. It's about the narrative that thing paints, right? Yeah. Oh, I can't believe you're talking about money. Can't believe you're talking about branding. You got to do this for the love. It's like, well, of course you got to do it for the love. That's why we've all been toiling for fucking 30 years to do it for the love. Now it's time, dude. Now it's time to stack cash in a pyramid to the sky.
I'm looking at my phone because I saw this awesome saying. It was actually, let me just have a look. It really kind of sort of like rings. It's just exactly what we're talking about now. It's a killer saying. I can't remember it. And let me search the guys.
You're like that guy in the pub that's looking for that photo. You're like, hold on, guys.
Yeah.
And now we're like all sitting here.
Is this it? No, that's not it.
While Scott is looking for
this is it.
saying,
this is it.
Oh,
this is it.
I was just about to pull us.
Thank God I found it.
You found it.
I actually saved this post because I read it and I was like, that is bang on. And it's and hey, this is not. I'm not talking to the poster here that posted that thing either. I'm actually saying this for everybody listening that's actually in a position where you're thinking about becoming a teacher and going to that music store and pinning your thing on the board and you're taking a leap and you're shitting your pants and you're like, oh no, what happens if I'm not good enough? That person that wants to connect with that school and maybe teach in the school, or the person that wants to go teach in a uni or a college, or the person that's thinking about going online and doing the thing, right? Check this out. This is the saying: the fastest way to kill a dream is to tell a small-minded person about it.
Oh, wow. Read it again.
The fastest way to kill a dream is to tell a small-minded person about it. That freaking jumped out at me and slapped me around my chops. I was like, that is bang on.
Because they won't get it. And they'll just talk it down. Oh, yes.
Right. And just from personal experience, and then we'll call it, because I said we were going to call it 20 minutes ago.
Oh,
I am an idea factory. Ian knows this. I'm a freaking idea factory, right? It just sort of like spew ideas all the time. And some of them are shit and some of them are good. But the amount of, it's interesting, the amount of pushback, even if it's sort of like underlying pushback, the amount of pushback I get of all of these sort of like silly ideas or crazy ideas that I have is like, versus the amount of like, oh, this is a cool idea.
Yes.
Is like 90% to 10. 90% of it is actually sort of like people are just like, and it's not their fault, right? Just to put it out there. It is not, it's not their fault. It's just so be really mindful of when you tell somebody something, really think about when they give you any kind of weird pushback, even if it's just sort of like under the surface, really think about whether you should take that on board or not. And on the flip side, try and identify people in your life that are the exact opposite.
Yeah.
Dude sitting right in front of me here, well, sitting over in Minneapolis, is the exact opposite. I could come up with any batshit crazy idea and be like, Ian, I've got this freaking awesome idea. And it could be terrible. And Ian's like, yes, dude, let's go. Right? And is
I love
really, it's really important. And I think that it's really important to have people in your life like that and try and keep hold of them.
Yes.
Hold on to each other, because there are so many people that will not do that, you know, and it ain't their fault. It's just the way that the world is baked.
Yes.
Just try and find the people that are just, they will go all in, even if it's the worst idea. Because, hey, maybe it is a shitty idea, but do it anyway. And then, hey, find out, rather than don't do it. And then,
it's a bad idea. So, because you know what I've found too in our relationship, Scott, that when we've had these crazy ideas, even if they are not doable, or even if it changes into something cool, it's not like we're insane people that are going to just at all costs ruin everything for this ridiculous idea. The ridiculous idea is the juice to spring into something, right? And then maybe it goes a different way, or your expectations aren't set so high that if it pivots, but it always brings you to a new place that's cool. Always.
Yeah.
And I want to say too, if you're the person, so for the person with the idea, so we've been talking about that person, but really quick too, if you are the person that has shut down, if you are the small-minded person, because sometimes I think of myself as the small-minded person with something that my kids say to me, you know, like, Dad, I want to do this. And instead of being like, oh, that's great, I go, well, I don't know, because I'm trying to be the protective parent. If you're the protective parent, or if you are the small-minded person in your relationship with your friends, when they have a big, quote unquote, dumb idea and you shoot it down, try this next time. Instead of shooting it down, just say, tell me more about that. Just ask them a question instead of saying, nah, I don't think so, dude. I don't know. No. Say like, oh, well, I don't know about that. Tell me more about that. And you might find that by them talking about it, you understand it more. They understand it more. You're a good friend. Don't shoot down the idea.
Yeah. And also just to, I guess, sort of like talking to both sides, right? The people with the crazy idea, and we all have crazy ideas, right? All of us. So talking to everybody here, and maybe talking to everybody else as well that might push back against awesome ideas or crazy ideas sometimes.
Yes.
That you might not think that you're doing it when you are. So your example of it there was actually more sort of like outward, wasn't it? Right? It's sort of like, oh, I'm not sure, man. Right? It's actually not many people do that, but it's this underlying thing where they're not excited about it. They're actually, it's like it's this sort of like not excited about it.
Skepticism,
all of that shit. To all the people that have them crazy ideas and want to go do the thing, just be careful of taking, being influenced by somebody else's skepticism. And then for all of the skeptics out there, sometimes it's cool just to sort of like say, hey, go do it. Go do it, and let them fall on their face. And when they do, and it doesn't work out, they pick themselves up and they do it again. And at some point, it'll work. Yeah. I think it's always worth going and chasing the idea, even if you're going to fall flat. Rather do that. Rather than do that than just sit at home and do nothing.
Yeah, it's going to turn you towards something else potentially. It's either going to work out or it's not going to work out, and you do something else, but you've learned something in the process.
Yeah.
And hey, those skeptics, the people, the small-minded skeptics that we're talking about, that sometimes I can be, it's always insecurity. It's always insecurity. It's always like, I don't know enough about that, so I'm not going to be enthusiastic. I think that's a dumb idea because I would never do something like that. I wish I'd done more with my life, but I'm not going to be excited for Scott's idea because, I didn't do that. So what makes you think you can go do that, right? It's always about you. Whenever someone isn't enthusiastic about your idea, unless it's a really dumb idea, right? Like it's typically more about the person that is projecting their own life, their own insecurities on you. So don't take it. Don't take that skeptic too seriously. Go do your thing. Yeah.
It made me think about Seth Godin, who's a great speaker and just great thinker. He read he didn't read. He wrote a load of great books about primarily sort of like marketing, actually. But he's like the best in the world. He's awesome. And shout out to Mitch Joel as well, who might be listening to this. He's good friends with Seth. But it made me think about an article that Seth wrote called Stop Stealing Dreams. And it's actually a blog, not about what we're talking about here. It's not an article about what we're talking about. It's an article about education and how the education system is actually set up in a way to steal dreams. And the whole article is called Stop Stealing Dreams. It is a fantastic read if you're into reading about education and stuff like that. But in a way, it's what we're talking about. Don't accidentally steal somebody's dream.
Yeah, don't do it.
Dude, let's call it. That was awesome.
This one. Love this one.
Yeah, thanks for listening, guys. And go be a teacher. Come and be a teacher with Ian and I. We're sort of like part of the teaching crew. We'd love you to come along and join the ride.
Yeah, we sure would. Cool.
Take it easy, guys. See you in a bit. Bye.
Take care, everybody.